Spam. Every game has it. Players love to pick a single move and ride it to victory. But no series embraced spam quite like the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm franchise. That's because CyberConnect 2, known more for flashy cutscenes and MMOs than competitive fighting games, had no real experience balancing online PvP. When Storm 2 introduced online ninja battles to the world for the first time, that lack of experience showed. Players quickly realized spamming was the easiest way to rack up wins and climb the ranks. Today we're going to break down the most infamous spam strategies in Storm history and why they worked. To kick off this list, we have Datara. Not only was Storm 2 the first game to introduce online matches, but it also introduced the first ranged characters. These characters traded normal melee combos for long-range projectile combos, executed by tapping square. It didn't take long for players to find out that Dataras were especially useful for spamming. Since his neutral combo puts him in the air, he can immediately follow up with an air-ranged combo. Players would stay back and repeat this sequence for the entire game, only occasionally stopping to use a jutsu or a grab. Combine this with assists and your match has just become an explosive game of cat and mouse. Storm 2's limited movement options, double jumps and air dashes had yet to be added, meant getting to Datara could be challenging. And this playstyle was so prevalent that using him online is still stigmatized 10 years later. Not far from Datara's method of spam, this next one on our list is Shuriken spammers. Spamming Shuriken is still a reliable tactic in Storm today, but there was a unique way of doing it in Storm 2. We know that throwing kunai during a sidestep triggers a special throwing animation that lets you keep moving while tossing even more kunai. But in Storm 2, it had almost no recovery. Any character could do this, but Itachi was king. His fast movement and fluid sidestep let him pepper opponents with non-stop Shuriken while staying out of reach. This looked ridiculous, but was a surprisingly effective way of chipping at the opponent's life. Other offenders included Killer B, Lars, who basically had a gun, and anyone with the upside down throw animation. Sure, you could dash through the spam, but on large maps, good luck. It got so bad that CC2 added recovery frames in later games just to tone this down. Then there was Sage Mode Naruto. As the cover character of Storm 2, CC2 clearly wanted him to feel strong, but his Rasengan Barrage Jutsu was way overtuned. Fast startup, strong tracking, great hit detection. Just press triangle circle and watch it lock on. It was the perfect punish after you subbed out of a combo, and it hit so hard it sent them flying. Not that it mattered because the jutsu also traveled nearly full screen. It took multiple nerfs to bring it in line. When Storm Generations dropped, you'd hope balance had improved. But things got even worse. Various characters had overpowered ninjutsu that seemed hardwired for spam. Let's go rapid fire through some of the worst offenders. PTS 1010, a low risk projectile with crazy tracking. In Awakening it shredded guard. Add lockdown assists like PTS Gara or Hidan and it became oppressive. Onoki, a massive projectile jutsu with barely any recovery. Subbing often just dropped you back into the attack. Strike back assists made it even worse. Young Kakashi. His Chidori had insanely fast startup, making it the only move you needed. When you're out of chakra, just start tilt spamming instead. But all of that was nothing compared to Mask Man's jutsu. This could probably be the most broken jutsu in Storm history. It was invincible, nearly impossible to dodge or sub, and had a lingering hitbox that made it safe even if you missed. In Awakening, it shattered guard in 2 hits and dealt massive damage. Players would just spam it on repeat, and this playstyle made appearances in various high-level clan battles. It was so bad that CC2 nerfed it in every single game after. It's barely recognizable today, and I honestly think this one move inspired them to add double jumps in Storm 3. But it wasn't just jutsu spam that gave people such a hard time in Generations. There were also the tilt spammers. There were always tilts worth spamming in Storm 2, but Generations introduced tilt cancels, letting players sidestep or jump mid-tilt, then chain that into another tilt for infinite pressure. Examples include Donzo, who had a 2-hit projectile tilt that could loop forever. It was execution heavy, but once mastered, players could send out an endless string of wind blades at their opponent. Sakura could shoulder tackle repeatedly with fast startup and the ability to jump to make it safe. Her tilt was so oppressive, it put her at the top of Generations tier lists. But the true final boss of tilt spam? PTS Konkoro. His tilt was so busted you didn't even need to cancel it. It chained into itself by default thanks to its low recovery and fast startup. And since he controls his puppet from a distance, He could pressure from anywhere with nearly gapless strings that did absurd damage. No real counterplay, no room to breathe, just pure puppet pain. Top 1 in Generations, arguably top 1 in any Storm game, maybe top 1 in any fighting game. The spam meta in Storm 2 and Generations forced CC2 to take balancing seriously. Starting with Storm 3, things did get better, but spam never truly disappeared. From the ashes of the nerfed jutsus of Naruto Generations came new attacks and mechanics that seemed hardwired for spam. Mifune was instantly a popular pick for spammers who wanted an attack similar to Sage Naruto's old Rasengan Barrage. This lightning fast attack traveled in a straight line, but was famous for catching players off guard. It converted into a cinematic, meaning it led to unsubbable guaranteed damage. Then there were instant awakenings. Certain characters could now awaken on the spot by flicking the analog stick, making them more powerful and granting access to new abilities. Minato was a popular choice for spammers because his awakening action was a fast projectile that could be activated mid-air. If it hit, he would teleport to them for unsubbable damage that led to a full combo. His fast speed and teleports meant players would run away and throw this attack out as often as possible. There was also Nagato, who gained access to a lightning fast laser projectile that hit like a truck whenever he awakened. Nagato players would cancel their dashes with instant awakening, then quickly shoot the projectile to catch players off guard. He could also do it in the air for added security. If that wasn't enough, his almighty pool tilt was the perfect combo starters, and players would spam it all the time. The other popular choice for spammers was Hanzo. This character was strong overall, but they often spammed his tilt because he retreated backwards during the animation, and it poisoned the opponent. Overall, there was nothing in Storm 2 that reached the heights of broken demonstrated in Generation, and with their next release, CC2 would finally get a grasp on balance. Revolution had very limited spam, but there was a new mechanic players would come to exploit. Stay tuned for part 2, where I talk about the ways players spammed in Storm Revolution and beyond.